So let's hand over to Billy Wagner, owner of Noble Heart and Schmutzig, for our next talk.
Hello. Hi, my name is Billy Wagner from Noble Heart and Schmutzig. Let me ask you something. We are all experts here, and what do you think what people looking for when they have a night out? When they really want to burn some cash? What do you think, what's the experience of what they are looking for? Can you tell me something maybe?
Good time. Good time.
Good time. What else? Entertainment.
Unique experience.
Unique experience. Very good. What's about fighting Nazis? Or body positivity? Or end of industrial agriculture? Or working conditions in the restaurant industry? Or culture representation of post-reunification of East Germany? Are those perhaps things people might ask from a restaurant on which they spend the night out? What do you think? You know, I think it would be really fine if they would do, because I think it makes total sense for a restaurant to speak out and become active on those matters. We have a saying in Germany, sauf dich voll, fress dich dick, doch halt das Maul von Politik. That's absolutely true for most restaurants, I would say. Maybe more so than other industries. Our really tends to be quiet about controversial stuff. You know, beyond of how many gins or tonics you actually need to stock, it is quite a competitive world out there. And we just don't like to step on anyone's toes, right? Especially are those toes attached to paying guests, right? There is a tradition behind of this. Hospitality was always or is always focused on putting people at ease, showing them a very good time, not offending anyone or not really challenging them, serving anyone as long as they can pay the check. You could say we are experts in this, preparing beautiful food, pouring wonderful drinks, and making people feel really well. Well, I want you to show today why I do things in a different way. In 2018, Noble Heart and Schmutzig was named as most political restaurant in Germany. Don't get me wrong, I believe too in serving beautiful drinks and wonderful food from amazing local producers. That was at the heart of our business from the get-go in 2015. Of course, I want to have a good time in a restaurant and I want to offer this to our customers. A really good time, a really noble heart and maybe also filthy one. But you know what? For me, it's not so much about the guests. I actually don't care so much about them. Yes, I want them to have a good time enjoying themselves, but more than that, I want them aware. I want them to open up their eyes. I want to inform them, and I also want to challenge them. And most of all, I want to make them to do better decisions in the future on the basis of what they have seen or what they have experienced at Noble Heart and Schmutzig. On the most basic level, it is about food. It's the way of how it's produced and the people who produce it. But this is only a starting point. In my talk today, I want to showcase where it all started, where we are maybe right now, and where we go from here together. Firstly, I want to briefly show you the different areas of our activism from the last 8 years. how focusing on local food has brought up topics such as community building, diversity, inclusion, and working conditions. And secondly, I want to explain why that makes sense, why these are not separate issues, but they are all somehow connected, arising from the same place, and why good food is a logical starting point for bigger change. And finally, I hope we will have the time to talk a little bit about it and to see what that actually means on a practical term. Anyway, let's go back to the beginning. Now, and you know, when I toyed with the idea of opening up an own restaurant over a decade ago, I never knew that I would end up here. I didn't know that we talk about gender-neutral toilets, an exhibition of vulvas in the window of Nobelhart and Schmutzig, or that I will gonna publish a guide of conduct. But I knew this, I wanted my business to put the focus on local food, on the highest quality from small-scale producers. Why? Well, because simply having a restaurant with local food means I have the most amazing access to a most amazing produce and have it cooked by chefs for myself and for the people who are around me. Sounds like a joke, but it's not one. Well, first of all, I want to tell you, because I've learned from early age on that what good food means at the end. I was very blessed with my parents showing me this. Good food most of the time is local food because it hasn't been traveling so much. Secondly, beginning of the 2000s, there was a course of rising local cuisines around the globe, starting in the Nordic countries, and then it spread everywhere. So it was on my radar, and I thought that's really exciting, especially because we don't have such a thing in Germany. In fact, we lack any sort of national food identity. Most high-level German cuisines were at the time just copying French or Mediterranean-style cooking. Berlin too. I live here since 2008, and it was kind of a bit of a culinary wasteland. And that brings me to the third reason, which is actually the most political one. You see, I'm born in Karl-Marx-Stadt, nowadays it's called Chemnitz, in the old GDR. My family escaped to West Germany, to Franconia, when I was 8, before the fall of the wall. And while I was too young to identify as East German or West German, the people around me never stopped reminding me that they thought I was East German. And this is really typical. You have to understand this. If East Germany is talked about on a national level, it's usually as the butt of a joke, as the place where everyone is unemployed, voting for Nazis, or is an alcoholic. But this is a West German narrative. Of course, there has been certain hopelessness and destitution in East Germany with the fall of the wall. Also in Brandenburg, the area right around Berlin. The history and the dynamics being behind this is very complicated. I highly recommend, if you read the book, if you're interested in Der Osten, eine westdeutsche Erfindung, the East, West German invention. Either way, there was and remains a big divide between city and the hinterland, so the area around Berlin. Yet, I was also aware that this area held big potential. When I was looking into opening up a restaurant in Berlin with doing local food, I saw that there were already a few small farms out in Brandenburg doing wonderful work. But a lot of people didn't know about this. Also, it was really hard to access their produce because logistics were not really in place. And so it felt that it was time to put these people and their amazing local produce into the spotlight. They truly deserve the respect and also the recognition, not just because where they are from, because of how they farm. And that is a very highly political issue. You see, German food culture prizes usually mass over quality. It's super dominant by huge industrialized anonymous farms, which in terms are subsidized with billions of tax euros every year. It's quite pervert, I think, or it's quite perverse. This means, for me, food is most of the time quite terrible because it exploits the environment, it exploits the animal, and it exploits also the people and the area where they are from. And this is awful on probably every level. None of the less, I'm a pragmatist. I know consumers' demand is what matters usually most. And as long as most Germans don't want to buy cheap, there will be not much change. So I thought we need to educate our consumers. And for that reason, I have really wanted to put local fruit from small producers in the spotlight. Because more people are aware of it, the more they can demand it. Consumers have actually power. Where they spend their cash is what determines policy. Now imagine if some of the flow to venture and businesses like those of our amazing producers. That creates real perspective both for German food culture and for a disadvantaged area. And I'm proud to say this is actually really happened. So these thoughts right before opening up the restaurant really formed the backbone of everything we have done since. Let me give you some examples of how does that look like. Well, this is no surprise after everything I've said. This is us demonstrating for change in agriculture, from industrial farming to small-scale, quality-driven, and environmental conscious agriculture. And then in 2017, we founded the Gemeinschaft with Restaurant Horvath, which is also based in Berlin, which is a community of like-minded people who share goals and values of their vision for a new, better food culture built on collaboration. There's a lot of Berlin restaurants part. There's a lot of farmers, chicken breeders, gardeners, artisans, craftspeople part of this. Every year there is a big symposium. Besides that, we organize farm visits, Hofbesuche, and roundtable sessions to get people informed. And finally, there's also just released end of last year, an educational program for young students who want to learn about the food system in general. With the connections built by Die Gemeinschaft, more chefs have access to amazing food produced by local small-scale farmers. And here's a really controversial one from 2016. I put this sticker on the door because, you know what? I do not believe in being tolerant to intolerance. And for this reason, I refuse to serve people who are proudly xenophobic, racist, sexist, or so on. Thank you. In 2018, we started branching out a little bit more. And we did an exhibit with an art collective, Vulvas, which is about body positivity. Basically, it showed that all vulvas are different, and this is okay. How does it relate to food, you might ask? Well, we are all about natural food and then against the way in which late capitalism puts norms on everything and says what is acceptable and what needs to be thrown away or changed. That is true for food as much as for our bodies. A cucumber that isn't perfectly straight goes into the bin. A woman who is concerned about her labia being too long, even in that fact is perfectly normal, gets surgery. And the same thing is at work here. We want to question this. These were some examples from our early efforts, but since then we have worked on a bigger topic. Here is something I really think which is quite important for the moment. Not because I wrote it, because I did not. Actually, it's the result of three and a half years of working with the entire Noble Heart team, with input from many, many external experts from our guide of conduct. Basically, it is about how to build a better, fairer, more respectful, discrimination and harassment-free workplace at a restaurant. It provides guidelines on all things like communication and behavior at work. In addition, I give explanations on our thinking behind everything, because I don't want them to follow the rules blindly. So for more, I want them to engage critically with the topics and feel also empowered to make their own informed decision. Well, the actual document is just one part of a bigger process, but it is something that you can actually look and read. There is much more to the entire process, which means a lot of consultations, trainings, workshops, and so on. And if you're interested in, please have a look and scan the QR code. So why did we do this? Well, I was really sad to see that so many people left our industry in and after the pandemic. And I was also sadder to see that so few returned when things opened up. I still believe that our industry offers amazing job opportunities. I think our industry is also purpose-driven. In German, we call it sinnstiftend. I think that's a beautiful word for what it actually means. Because I don't get bored by the job, what I'm doing every day. I really like working in a restaurant. And I want that people understand why a restaurant has a certain magic. I want also the new generation to know that it can be a quite fulfilling and that it can be a quite fulfilling career, that it is purpose-driven, sinnstiftend, and not just only a summer or a student job. And yet, I'm also quite aware that restaurants and maybe also bars don't make the headline for their great working conditions and or competitive pay. Quite the opposite. All of you know the stress, the exhaustion, and sadly sometimes the abusive and the harassment that goes on from some places, from both guests and also colleagues. With all of that said, perhaps it's not a surprise that new generations would rather go and work in different industries. For me, this was a much needed wake-up call. We need things to change in gastronomy. And we absolutely can build attractive, competitive and harassment-free workplaces. For this, we have to keep open minds, to be willing to invest both time and money. But I think it is worth it, not just because it's necessary, also because it's the right thing to do. I would be very glad to see if this sort of initiative catches up in the whole industry. That's the reason why we made the access for free. So how is this all connected? You know, I could not foresee that we would go from fighting industrial agriculture to having gender-free toilets and a guide of conduct. But looking back, it makes a lot of sense. You see, it's about values in general, not in a marketing way, as some pretty words with no meaning. You know what I mean, right? This bullshit bingo. But I mean as a set of ideals that guide our work and actions every day. For me, the same values that made me want to treat local Brandenburg food producers with respect are also at work when it comes to how we treat our staff. I'm going to be honest, there was also a learning curve, and it's still going on. But I realized that I cannot go in front of people like now and talk about amazing community and not treat my own employees with the same dignity. An example? Well, like many restaurants, we have a lot of unpaid interns at our restaurant over the years, simply because this was the way how it was done. They were calling us, wanted to work at Nobelhart and Schmutzig for a couple of weeks, and then they go back to their normal lives. And then I thought, I realized a certain conflict because we cannot talk about exploiting nature, animals and farmers, and not then exploit young people. I cannot talk about building a diverse and vibrant food culture, but then not only making internships accessible to people who can work for free. At the same way, I cannot talk about sustainability, but then offering jobs that people can't continue doing after the age of 35 or starting a family. In the end, when it comes down to this, the question that you ask yourself when you try and create a new dish or a drink are exactly the same questions that you should ask yourself no matter what you do. Is this really the way I want to doing it? Is this the line of everything I want to stand for? Or just I'm doing something in the old way, the easy way, or the safe way? When I decided to showcase excellent food we have in Brandenburg in my restaurant, it was not the easy or the safe way. But it was absolutely in line what I was standing for, and I still stand. It's the same way everything I have to do since in the same way everything I have done since then has got me closer to this. So, good food might not change the world, but for me, it was a good place to start. Thank you for listening.
First of all, that was amazing. I think
That was amazing. That was impactful. Really massive.
Dean has goosebumps. You
Yeah.
can't see it, but he has goosebumps.
I get emotional about things, and it's powerful to have such packed but such a quiet room. You know, there was not a whisper. Everyone listening so intently. It was really cool.
Yeah, and I think obviously we will open up for questions from both the floor and the live streams. But I think to kick it off, how was it perceived? Like, how did the guests react? How did the staff react? How did the farmers react when you made it clearer and clearer, this is the direction you want to go? Was everybody, yes, let's go? Or?
At the end, it's not so much about the guests, what we are all doing. At the end, we are mostly doing it for us. So either we cook in a traditional way, or we cook with local produce, or it's about how we treat our staff, how we pay them, what kind of offering we have to them, you know. At the end, the guest was not much involved. Maybe because he or she doesn't have any maybe clue about it. Even when people make a reservation at Nobelhart and Schmutzig, we tell them before and also after with the sentence like, do you know actually what you're paying for? And we give them some ideas of what they're actually paying for. So they click on the link and then they go to our homepage and then they see all that, what we do. But at the end, doing all this, it's more that I can keep my business going with enough staff. And we don't lack any people, so we are still very, very fine. But I think, you know, our competitors are not the restaurant Tim Rauer or the restaurant Facile or Horvath or so. It's other businesses. It's the office management from a law firm. You know, these are our competitors. Because people dropping out of gastronomy, out of restaurants, and doing something during the day. Because the work in the field of restaurants is not possible because of how it's done and how much you work and how much is paid and when do you work, etc. So this is not working with usually older people. So older people means over the age of 35, right? So it's a thing to create an atmosphere that more and more people want to work at Nobelhart and Schmutzig. And this is for all the guests good because I have servers and I have chefs who gonna do the stuff what people want, you know, food and drinks.
Do you sometimes find it hard to make the decisions? For example, when we decided to go from 6 days down to only 5 days so that everybody could have 2 days off jointly, it took us a few months to debate the pros and cons, but after we made the decision and did it, I would never go back.
Yeah. The first time we started 2 years ago with a 4 days working shift for all the people on 40 hours. And this was a topic which was brought up in 2018. It was a question and answer form to all the staff members of Nobelhart and Schmutzig. We made this little thing for everyone, and that was part of the process of what do people want, what makes their job better, you know. And everyone said, or most of everyone said, okay, 4 days would be much better. And since then we skipped the numbers of hours from 50 to 40. People have 2 days off on Sunday and Monday, and usually 1 day during the week. And because of that, you know, people can handle families. They can handle child things. They can live much better, you know. And the partner is, you are a better partner to your partner who is not at the restaurant, right? So, and this is, I think, it's a good thing. And this keeps people being at the restaurant, having that very nice purpose-driven job, this creativity work, what you want to do. And at the same time, you can have a private life. And I think that's very, very positive. So I would not go back as well. And it's a way of processing. It takes a lot of time to organize it. But this is okay because, you know, we've working on all these things for 3.5 years. And this is not something which you do overnight. You know, you have to learn as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's also kind of ironic that within the profession that we're all in, that you're expected to be creative, you're expected to be gracious, you're expected to be hosting. But then if you're worried about your family, if you're worried about pay, if you're worried about your working contract and all of these things, it makes it impossible to invest all that energy into taking care of other people.
Yeah, and creativity is best served when you've got a little bit of time to yourself to de-stress. If you're ticking boxes, it's near impossible to constantly be creative, right?
And at the same time, you're absolutely right. But at the same time, this costs a lot of money. No? So we had to, since we changed everything, we have 4 people more in the staff. Obviously, this makes the menu what the menu costs. It's 175 during the week and 200 on the weekends, you know? And at the same time, you should let people know that you're doing all that, so that when they, you know, it's like buying a shirt and you're buying it from cotton from Greece or Portugal, and it's tailored in the Schwäbische Alb in Germany, you know, then you know you have a different work mentality behind that. Then you get your shirt from somewhere where it's really random at the end, you know. And it's the same thing with a restaurant visit, I think.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, I'm always the one that references books, but, you know, there's a book called Everybody Lies, where essentially using Google to prove that everybody lies, because everybody says they want free range this and natural this and blah, blah, blah. But then when they have to speak with their money, they go in, I don't know, I will say, because I live in the UK, Tesco and buy a £1 chicken. But a chicken cannot cost £1 if it is all of these things. But then, like, we need to look at the bigger picture, I think. So, but it's very interesting, for example, that you charge so different price in the week versus the weekend for the same menu.
Like you fly to London before Christmas, probably the flight is also more expensive than on a random day during the week, or when you work in a hotel, you know, when there is New Year's, probably it's double. Or there was 2 weeks ago in Berlin, there was the marathon, then the rents for the rooms are 3 times as much. You know what I mean? So it's on weekend, everyone, also the amateurs wants to do party, right? And then you need to charge them at the end. Because it makes the during the week also more accessible. You can keep people working not only 2 days, for 4 days, you know, or 5 days, you know, you have a much more stable business, I would say. And also, when there are people in the city who are there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, they can use the cheaper stuff in the week. They don't need to come on the weekends. So it gives also the option from that view.
And for me, I agree with you, and I agree with the praxis. But I just have seen that this is a conversation that is becoming more and more frequent within our industry, and especially on the food side. I think in bars we sometimes are a little bit more kind of restricted in the terms of time, because you can't say this is a licensing thing in many countries. You can't say that, okay, so if you come at 7 a.m. on Monday, I'll sell you the beer cheaper. But who wants to drink?
I want to make one point. It's not that I do the during the week cheaper. I do the weekends more expensive. I think that's a very important way of thinking. You know, it's not offering cheaper stuff on during the week. It's more when you have a high demand. Take on New Year's, 31st of December, everyone goes out, look at the menu, it's usually 20, 30, 40, 50% more, or they make you having a certain minimum consumption or whatever, because they need to make the money with that. Also, the staff wants more money if they work on New Year's. It's a circle. So I think that's very important. So it's not about making during the week cheaper. It's more about making where you have really high demand, making it more expensive.
Yeah, it's about real estate. Like, I'll never forget, I went and had drinks in the Nomad Hotel in New York, and I sat down. I was there for a few hours, and I was meeting different people coming in and out. And someone sat on a coffee, an empty coffee in one of the busiest spots ever for like 3 hours. And I felt so guilty. I bought drinks for them as I left, just so that someone was paying for the use of that space, if that makes sense. It drove me crazy, but yeah.
And so I have a different question, because unless someone wants to expand on this topic, but you also made the decision to not. I don't know actually if this is true or not. So this is the question: did you make a decision not to allow people to take photos and these kind of things during the meal and focus on being present in the now?
That's correct.
And how was that received? Like, I think that's a very nice environment to be in, both from a working perspective, but also as a guest, because it kind of frees you up to enjoy what you're experiencing. But has anyone questioned it?
All the time. But this is okay, you know. We are here in Berlin, and Berlin is known for parties quite a bit, also very extended parties with maybe illegal substances. So people use that opportunity, and in most places in Berlin, your phone, when you have it, gets a sticker on the camera. So if you go out, it's a completely normal thing, because at the end you're feeling free and you're feeling not be surveillanced all the time, right? Especially if you run out naked or if you're giving a blowjob someone on the dance floor, you know, that thing can happen, you know. So knowing this in Berlin, we decided very clear that we don't tape the phones, but we said we're offering guests the idea of not making pictures all the time, you know. If they drink something really well, they can make a picture of the bottle. If they hear something really well, because we play music from record, so vinyl, they can also make a picture of the label, the cover. But usually they should keep their phone out of the sight, because at the end it's a compliment to the person who you're with. And at the same time, it gives also a little bit of a digital detox feeling for 2.5, 3 hours on an evening, and it makes a nicer feeling. You know, before we opened up, I visited Gonzalo from Back and Breck. Somehow Nobelhart and Schmutzig was also had the mind of, you know, they have also this beautiful counter, and I love that idea, and so he was also an inspiration from that. But there was one time I was in the bar. He's also very strict with pictures in his bar and everything. And he had the saying, make memories, not pictures. And I think that's also a really nice way. And there was another saying which also brings it to a point. We also use it since 2 years, I would say, on our little menu card. More social, less media. You know, I think that's also a big thing, you know, especially if you are with a person and you're really having a good time with him or her and doing something nice. And I think that keep the phone out of the sight, I think, yeah. But at the same time, there's a lot of people really who don't understand that, or they ask me, you know, don't you want me to make social media for you that I can attract to my followers? I think, no, I don't want that. I want you to sit here, eat and drink, get a little bit drunk if you want to, and having a good time, but don't work for me. No, so it's a philosophy point, I think, yeah.
So with that, let's ask any questions from the room.
What I'm interested, when you started Nobelhart and Schmutzig, what's the concept at the beginning? I will be one of the best restaurants here in Berlin. I can do it with my guests, because in the end, the customers comes to us, they pay your payment, they pay for your colleagues, the loan, sorry, I forgot.
Salary?
Salary, thank you very much. I mean, this is like an independency we have, you know. Of course, I would like to educate them. They have to behave in my restaurants, they have to behave in my bar, but at the same time, their money is the thing that keep me alive, my family alive, the salaries from my colleagues and everything. How you do that? I mean, this is at the beginning, the whole time at the beginning, hey, we will be one of the best restaurants in Berlin. We can have this situation, or we want to be in a situation that I can educate my customers now.
Thanks for the question. At the end, you should know, on Google, we are restaurant number 3.7. So on that part, we are really not one of the best restaurants in Berlin, maybe one of the worst at the end, I don't know. But at the same time, it's like going to a theater and taking a new interpretation of an old piece. You really like it or you really hate it, you know? And for me, this is okay, you know? That people have an emotion when they leave Nobelhart and Schmutzig. I obviously aim also for a business reason that people really like it and really come back. But at the same time, that's not my first drive for the topic. My first drive is always, how do I work? How does it feel for our staff? How does it make sense? Can I organize it? You know, is it practical? And I think that's more important for me, and then to see what the customers really like. Because at the end, we have a restaurant where people gonna come. They will come and they want the show of what we do. They don't expect us to serve a gin and tonic as they know it from many other places. But I totally understand that there are restaurants, for instance here, Soho House, you need to maybe do something for your customers because you need to have them in focus. But at the end, with Nobelhart and Schmutzig, you know, we have only 40 seats. I don't need so much as if I would have 200 seats. You know what I mean? It's a way of, and we are here in Berlin and not in Castrop-Rauxel or in Konstanz and the in the landscape of Germany. So, yeah.
And I think also sometimes it can be an advantage because it's been a lot of talk recently about bars and restaurants being kind of the third space where people are spending time when they are not at home, not at work, and kind of identifying with the values of that space and that brand or the people that they are surrounding themselves with is becoming more and more important. That's why, for example, you see that today, when there's so much competition amongst bars and restaurants, people go to the places where they feel that it's a shared value, it's a shared opinion, it's a shared mindset. So having an opinion is much better than having no opinion.
You want to spend time with like-minded people in an environment of like-minded people, right?
Exactly.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm going to go back to something you said at the beginning. So if I bring this guy up. I'm not going to try, but what did that say? Because you said it in German, but then you said absolutely right.
Get drunk and eat yourself fat, but keep your mouth shut about politics.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. I didn't see the small text.
Yeah, it's the Kleingedrucktes, the little ones, you know, at the end.
I feel like
it's an old saying from Berlin, from Georg Grosch, an artist, and it's in German. It also is a rhyme, so it has a certain sound and everything, and yeah,
very cool.
I like the sausage and the very old German writing. So no, yeah.
12 minutes.
12
Thank
minutes.
you.
12 minutes. Sorry.
Thank you.